some more friends that are coming on here to listen to the reading with us, but we're going to go ahead and get started. So does anybody want to share? Can you think back to last week and remember what was happening and wonder when we finished reading? So we can remember what was going on?
What just happened to Augie? Where did he just go? Xavier?
He went to school for the first time.
Ooh, what was that like?
It was scary for him.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So I remember there was some bad parts where people didn't want to sit by him. And then was it Julian that said something about Star Wars that kind of made him sad? But then at the end of our reading, it was lunchtime and something happened that made him feel a little better. Does anybody remember who or what made him feel better? Uh-oh. Nobody remembers? Kendall?
This girl named Summer made him feel better about going to school.
How did she make him feel better?
She wanted to sit by him at lunch.
Yeah, she showed him kindness, right? Xavier, did you want to add to that? Thanks, Kendall.
They made a table that only had summer names and summer names.
Yeah, and they said people with summer names can come, right? But then she's really nice because she said, but even if somebody doesn't have a summer name, we're still going to let them, okay? So she seems really nice. All right, so that's where we left off as he was at lunch with Summer, and Mrs. Funk is going to start on the chapter that's called 1 to 10, and you can see it up on the screen here. Okay.
So if you have a book and you want to follow along, it's page 54 in that actual book. All right. 1 to 10. Mom always had this habit of asking me how something felt on a scale of 1 to 10. It started after I had my jaw surgery when I couldn't talk because my mouth was wired shut. They had taken a piece of bone from my hip bone to insert it into my chin to make it look more normal. So I was hurting in a lot of different places. Mom would point to one of my bandages, and I would hold up my fingers to show how much it was hurting. 1 meant a little bit. 10 meant so much. Then she would tell the doctor when he made his rounds what needed adjusting or things like that. Mom got very good at reading my mind sometimes. After that, we got into the habit of doing the 1 to 10 scale for anything that hurt. Like if I just had a plain old sore throat, she'd ask 1 to 10, and I'd say 3 or whatever it was. When school was over, I went outside to meet Mom, who was waiting for me at the front entrance like all the other parents or babysitters. The first thing she said after hugging me was, "So, how was it?" 1 to 10. 5, I said, shrugging, which I could tell totally surprised her. "Wow," she said quietly. "That's even better than I hoped for. Are we picking Via up?" "Miranda's mother is picking her up today. Do you want me to carry your backpack, sweetness?" We had started walking through the crowd of kids and parents, most of whom were noticing me, secretly pointing me out to each other. "I'm fine," I said. "It looks too heavy, Augie." She started to take it from me. "Mom," I said, pulling my backpack away from her. I walked in front of her, through the crowd. "See you tomorrow, August." It was Summer. She was walking in the opposite direction. "Bye, Summer," I said, waving at her. As soon as we crossed the street and were away from the crowd, Mom said, "Who's that, Augie?" "Summer." "Is she in your class?" "I have lots of classes." "Is she in any of your classes?" Mom said. "I don't know." Mom waited for me to say something else, but I just didn't feel like talking. "So it went okay?" said Mom. I could tell she had a million questions she wanted to ask me. "Everyone was nice? Did you like your teacher?" "Yeah." "How about those kids you met last week? Were they nice?" Fine. Jack hung out with me a lot. That's so great, sweetie. What about that boy, Julian? I thought about the Darth Sidious comment, but now it felt like that had happened 100 years ago. He was okay, I said. And the blonde girl? What was her name? Charlotte. Charlotte, Mom, I said, everyone was nice already. Okay, Mom answered. I honestly don't know why I was kind of mad at Mom, but I was. We crossed Amesford Avenue, and she didn't say anything else until we turned onto our block. So, Mom said, how did you meet Summer if she wasn't in any of your classes? We sat together at lunch, I said. I had started kicking a rock between my feet like it was a soccer ball, chasing it back and forth across the sidewalk. She seems very nice. Yeah, she is. She's very pretty, Mom said. Yeah, I know, I answered. You're kind of like Beauty and the Beast. I didn't want to see Mom's reaction. I just started running down the sidewalk after the rock, which I had kicked as hard as I could in front of me.
Okay, I see that Drayden has his hand raised. Did you have something to share, buddy? Oh, nope. Okay. All right, so what's Augie's mood seem like as he's talking to Mom about how his first day went? What's his mood like? What's he feeling?
His mood is that he won't be embarrassed to say something about the girl that he doesn't want his mom to know yet.
You think he was kind of embarrassed about it? Okay, thanks for sharing, Addie. Drayden.
He didn't think it was gonna be I thought it was gonna be like bad, like it was gonna be like a 1 or a 0. But he actually picked a 5. That was surprising because everybody's like bullying him and stuff.
Ooh, Drayden. So as Drayden was reading, he read when Mom asked, and then you thought in your head of what he might say. Good job, friend. That's what good readers do, is think about those things. Xavier? Xavier, I think you're muted, buddy.
The mood is what was it? It was like mad or something like that.
Yeah, I would agree. I think he's maybe a little irritated, but he said, I don't even know why I feel like that. He was mad at Mom, but he didn't know why. But like Drayden said, I guess it went better than maybe we thought because he said it was a 5. All right, thanks for sharing, guys. All right, let's keep going.
All right, Padawan. That night, I cut off the little braid on the back of my head. Dad noticed first. Oh, good, he said. I never liked that thing. Via couldn't believe I had cut it off. That took you years to grow, she said, almost like she was angry. Why did you cut it off? I don't know, I answered. Someone make fun of it? No. Did you tell Christopher you're cutting it off? We're not even friends anymore. That's not true, she said. I can't believe you would just cut it off like that, she added snottily. And then practically slamming my bedroom door shut as she left the room. I was snuggling with Daisy on my bed when Dad came to tuck me in later. He scooched Daisy over gently and laid down next to me on the blanket. So, Augie Doggy, he said. It was really an okay day. He got that from an old cartoon about a Dachshund named Augie Doggy, by the way. He had bought it for me on eBay when I was about 4, and he was watching it, and he watched it a lot for a while, especially in the hospital.
Okay.
He would call me Augie Doggy, and I would call him dear old dad, like the puppy called the Dachshund dad on the show. Yeah, it was totally okay, I said, nodding. You've been so quiet all night long. I guess I'm tired. It was a long day, huh? I nodded. But it really was okay? I nodded again. He didn't say anything, so after a few seconds, I said, it was better than okay, actually. That's great to hear, Augie, he said quietly, kissing my forehead. So it looks like it was a good call Mom made, you going to school. Yeah, but I could stop going if I wanted to, right? That was the deal, yes, he answered. Though I guess it would depend on why you wanted to stop going too, you know. You'd have to let us know. You'd have to talk to us and tell us how you're feeling. and if anything bad was happening. Okay, you promise you'd tell us? Yeah. So can I ask you something? Are you mad at Mom or something? You've been kind of huffy with her all night long. You know, Augie, I'm as much to blame for sending you to school as she is. No, she's more to blame. It was her idea. Mom knocked on the door just then and peeked her head inside my room. Just wanted to say goodnight, she said. She looked kind of shy for a second. Hi, Mama, Dad said, picking up my hand and waving it at her. I heard you cut off your braid, Mom said to me, sitting down at the edge of the bed next to Daisy. It's not a big deal, I answered quickly. I didn't say it was, said Mom. Why don't you put Augie to bed tonight, Dad said. Dad said to Mom, getting up. I've got some work to do anyway. Good night, my son. That was another part of Augie Doggie's routine, though I wasn't in the mood to say good night, dear old Dad. I'm so proud of you, said Dad, and then he got up out of the bed. Mom and Dad had always taken turns putting me to bed. I know it was a little babyish of me to still need them to do that, but that's just how it was with us. Will you check in on Via? Mom said to Dad as she lay down next to me. He stopped by the door and turned around. What's wrong with Via? Nothing, said Mom, shrugging. At least that she would tell me, but first day of high school and all that. Said Dad. And then he pointed his finger at me and winked. It's always something with you kids, isn't it? He said. Never a dull moment, said Mom. Never a dull moment, Dad repeated. Good night, guys. As soon as he closed the door, Mom pulled out the book she'd been reading to me the last couple of weeks. I was relieved because I really was afraid she'd want to talk, and I just didn't feel like doing that. But Mom didn't seem to want to talk either. She just flipped through the pages until she got to where we had left off. We're about halfway through The Hobbit. We were about halfway through The Hobbit. Stop, stop, shouted Thorin, said Mom, reading aloud. But it was too late. The excited dwarves had wasted their last arrows, and now the bows that Bjorn had given them were useless. They were a gloomy party that night, and the gloom gathered still deeper on them in the following days. They had crossed the enchanted stream, but beyond in the path seemed to straggle on just as before, and in front of the forest they could see no change. I'm not sure why, but all of a sudden I started to cry. Mom put the book down and wrapped her arms around me. She didn't seem surprised that I was crying. It's okay, she whispered in my ear. It'll be okay. I'm sorry, I said between sniffles. You scroll down.
Sorry.
She said, wiping away my tears in the back with the back of her hand. You have nothing to be sorry about. Why do I have to be so ugly, Mommy? I whispered. No, baby, you're not. I know I am. She kissed me all over my face. She kissed my eyes that came down too far. She kissed my cheeks that looked punched in. She kissed my tortoise mouth. She said soft words that I know were meant to help me, but words can't change my face.
Aww. Okay. Can anybody tell me how they would describe Augie's parents after that chapter? What kind of parents are they?
His parents might be worried about when he cut off his braid.
They felt worried. Yeah. Vivian?
Their parents are good parents, and they make Augie do whatever he wants about school. He can either go to school or not go to school.
Okay, nice job. Kate, I saw you had your hand raised. Did you have something, buddy?
As Adrian took mine.
Oh, you're thinking the same thing? Cool. Drayden?
His parents are motivating. He doesn't think he's ugly, or he doesn't think he's pretty, but his parents think he is because they're just his parents, but that's not it. They really think it.
Yeah, very good. Mrs. Funk, can you see our chat?
No.
I can.
Me either. I thought someone might have said something in there, but that's okay.
No,
Nobody did.
Oh, okay. All right. Gotcha. Okay.
All right. Wake me up when September ends. The rest of September was hard. I wasn't used to getting up so early in the morning. I wasn't used to the whole notion of homework, and I got my first quiz at the end of the month. I never got quizzes when Mom homeschooled me. I also didn't like how I had no free time anymore. Before, I was able to play whenever I wanted to, but now it felt like I always had to do stuff for school. And being at school was awful in the beginning. Every new class I had was like a new chance for kids to not stare at me. They would sneak peeks at me from behind their notebooks or when they thought I wasn't looking. They would take the longest way around me to avoid bumping into me in any way, like I had some germ they could catch, like my face was contagious. In the hallways, which were always crowded, my face would always surprise some unsuspecting kid who maybe hadn't heard about me. The kid would make the sound you make when you hold your breath before going underwater, the little sound. This happened maybe 4 or 5 times a day for the first few weeks, on the stairs in front of the lockers, in the library. 500 kids in a school. Eventually, every one of them was going to see my face at some time. And I knew about the first couple of days that had gotten around about me. Because every once in a while, I'd catch a kid elbowing his face as they passed me or talking behind their hands as I walked by them. I could only imagine what they were saying about me. Actually, I prefer not to even try to imagine it. I'm not saying they were doing any of these things in a mean way, by the way. Not once did any kid laugh or make noises or do anything like that. They were just being normal, dumb kids. And I know that. I kind of wanted to tell them that. Like, it's okay. I know I'm weird looking. Take a look. I don't bite. Hey, the truth is, if a Wookiee started going to the school all of a sudden, I'd be curious. I'd probably stare a bit. And if I was walking with Jack or Summer, I'd probably whisper to them, hey, there's the Wookiee. And if the Wookiee caught me saying that, he'd know I wasn't trying to be mean. I was just pointing out the fact that he's a Wookiee. It took about 1 week for the kids in my class to get used to my face. These were the kids I'd seen every day in all of my classes. It took about 2 weeks for the rest of the kids in my grade to get used to my face. These were the kids I'd see in the cafeteria, yard time, PE, music, library, computer class. It took about a month for the rest of the kids in the entire school to get used to it. These were the kids in all the other grades. They were big kids, some of them. Some of them had crazy haircuts. Some of them had earrings in their noses. Some of them had pimples. None of them looked like me.
I noticed something about Augie. I think it makes him sad when people look at him and talk about him, but he seems like a really understanding person because he put himself in their shoes and he said, well, if I saw someone that looked different, I would probably say something to someone. They're just noticing it. And so even though it makes him sad, he maybe sees that they're not always trying to be mean and he's trying to understand their perspective. Okay.
All right, Jack Will. I think we've heard about Jack Will before. I hung out with Jack in homeroom, English, history, computer, music, and science, which were all the classes we had together. The teachers assigned seats in every class, and I ended up sitting next to Jack in every single class. So I figured either the teachers were told to put me and Jack together, or it was a totally incredible coincidence. I walked to class with Jack too. I know he noticed kids staring at me, but he pretended not to notice. One time, though, on our way to history, this huge 8th grader who was zooming down the stairs 2 steps at a time accidentally bumped into us at the bottom of the stairs and knocked me down. As the guy helped me stand up, he got a look on his face, and without even meaning to, he just said, "Whoa." Then he patted me on the shoulder like he was dusting me off and took off after his friends. For some reason, me and Jack started cracking up. That guy made the funniest face, said Jack as we sat down at our desks. I know, right? I said. He was like, whoa. I swear, I think he wet his pants. We were laughing so hard that the teacher, Mr. Roach, had to ask us to settle down. Later, after we finished reading about how ancient Sumerians built sundials, Jack whispered, "Do you ever want to beat those kids up?" I shrugged. "I guess. I don't know. I'd want to. I think you should get a secret squirt gun or something and attach it to your eyes somehow. And every time someone stares at you, you would squirt them in the face. With some green slime or something," I answered. No, with slug juice mixed with dog pee." "Yeah," I said, completely agreeing. "Guys," said Mr. Roach from across the room, "people are still reading." We nodded and looked down at our books. Then Jack whispered, "Are you always going to look this way, August? I mean, can't you get plastic surgery or something?" I smiled and pointed to my face. "Hello, this is after plastic surgery." Jack clapped his hands over his forehead and started laughing hysterically. "Dude, you should sue your doctor," he answered between giggles. This time, the two of us were laughing so much we couldn't stop, even after Mr. Roach came over and made us both switch chairs with the kids next to us.
Okay. Let's see. Okay, that was a short one.
Yeah.
All right, so it seems like Jack Will's being a pretty good friend to Augie. So they're laughing together and having fun. I think he's lifting his spirits. So the next chapter, if you see, it's titled Mr. Brown's October Precept. Does anybody remember last time we read, we kind of talked about what that precept means. Do you guys remember? It's a kind of a new word for us. Addie?
It's rules about an important thing.
Rules about an important thing. Good job. I also remember Adeline, going off what Adeline said, they said last time a motto. And I remember that because it made us think of our class motto that we said at the beginning of the day that says, "I am somebody." And so, yeah, it's kind of the same thing. All right.
So last time we heard Mr. Brown's September precept. So we know that now it's into October. So this is his October precept. So Mr. Brown's October precept. Mr. Brown's precept for October was, "Your deeds are your monuments." He told us that this was written on the tombstone of some Egyptian guy that died thousands of years ago. Since we were just about to start studying ancient Egypt and history, Mr. Brown thought it was a good choice for a precept. Our homework assignment was to write a paragraph about what we thought the precept meant, or how we felt about it. This is what I wrote. "This precept means that we should be remembered for the things we do. The things we do are the most important things of all. They are more important than what we say or what we look like. The things we do outlast our morality. The things we do are like monuments that people build to honor heroes after they've died. They're like the pyramids that the Egyptians built to honor the pharaohs. Only instead of being made out of stone, they're made out of the memories people have of you. That's why your deeds are like your monuments, built with memories instead of with stone."
Whoa. Okay. So your deeds are your monuments. So a deed is something you do. Like if I did a good deed, I had a good action for someone. And then Augie talked about how monument is like something that's there to remind you of like your life, kind of. And so, yeah, I think what Augie was saying is that he thinks what you do is really important.
All right. Apples. I think there might be a question on the choice board for this week about that last little chapter. So you might want to keep that in mind.
Ooh, okay.
All right, apples. My birthday is October 10th. I like my birthday. 10/10. It would have been great if I'd been born at exactly 10:10 in the morning or at night, but I wasn't. I was born just after midnight, but I still think my birthday is cool. I usually have a little party at home, but this year I asked Mom if I could have a big bowling party. Mom was surprised but happy. She asked me who I wanted to ask from my class, and I said everyone in my homeroom, plus Summer. That's a lot of kids, Augie, said Mom. I have to invite everyone because I don't want anyone to get their feelings hurt if they find out other people are invited and they aren't, okay? Okay, Mom agreed. You even want to invite what's the deal kid? Yeah, you can invite Julian, I answered. Geez, Mom, you should forget about that already. I know, you're right. A couple of weeks later, I asked Mom who was coming to my party, and she said, Jack Will, Summer, Reed Kingsley, both Maxes, and a couple of other kids said they were going to try to be there. Like who? Charlotte's mom said Charlotte had a dance recital earlier in the day, but she was going to try to come to your party if time allowed. And Tristan's mom said he might come after his soccer game. So that's it? I said. That's like 5 people. That's more than 5 people, Augie. I think a lot of people just had plans already, Mom answered. We were in the kitchen. She was cutting one of the apples we had just gotten at the farmer's market into teensy-weensy bites so I could eat it. What kind of plans? I asked. I don't know, Augie. We sent out the invites kind of late. Did they tell you though? What reasons did they give? Everyone gave different reasons, Augie. She sounded a bit impatient. Really, sweetie, it shouldn't matter what their reasons were. People had plans, that's all. What did Julian give as his reason? I asked. You know, said Mom. His mom was the only person who didn't RSVP at all. She looked at me. I guess the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. I laughed because I thought she was making a joke, but then I realized she wasn't. What does that mean? I asked. Never mind. Now go wash your hands so you can eat. My birthday party turned out to be much smaller than I thought it would be, but it was still great. Jack, Summer, Reed, Tristan, and both Maxes came from school, and Christopher came too, all the way from Bridgeport with his parents. And Uncle Ben came, and Aunt Katie and Uncle Poe drove in from Boston, though Tata and Papa were in Florida for the winter. It was fun because all the grown-ups ended up bowling in the lane next to ours, so it really felt like there were a lot of people there to celebrate my birthday.
Okay. So Augie's birthday ended up being really good, he said. I want to come up here where they were talking about who was coming to the party, and he said, what reason did Julian give? Why isn't Julian coming? And Mom said, you know, his mom was the only person who didn't RSVP, which means she didn't respond at all. She looked at me. I guess the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. So this, friends, is an idiom because Mom's not actually talking about apples, even though she's cutting one up. What do you think she means by that when she's talking about Julian and his mom and she says, I guess the apple doesn't fall far from the tree? Drayden, what are you thinking?
I got something else than that. Like, I found that idiom on my paper, or I knew in my head
What?
that I guess the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. I knew that one.
You knew it was an idiom?
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what do you think it means?
It means that it's very similar to what it was.
It's very similar to what it was.
Okay, that's a good thought. Something similar to what it was. So, any other thoughts on that to add to Drayden's?
Wasn't Julian the one that was kind of rude or mean to him?
Yeah, he wasn't very nice.
So maybe Mom meant since the mom didn't respond, they were kind of alike. Maybe that's how Julian learned to act that way.
I think Mrs. Glennon's right. When you hear the apple doesn't fall far from the tree, it's like, I guess the son isn't very different from the mom. They're both kind of inconsiderate. Okay. All right, Halloween.
At lunch the next day, Summer asked me what I was going to be for Halloween. Of course, I'd been thinking about it since last Halloween, so I knew right away. Boba Fett. You know, you can wear a costume to school on Halloween, right? No way, really? So long as it's politically correct. What, like no guns and stuff? Exactly. What about blasters? I think a blaster is like a gun, Augie. Oh man, I said, shaking my head. Boba Fett has a blaster. At least we don't have to come like a character in a book anymore. In the lower school, that's what we had to do. Last year, I was the Wicked Witch of the West from The Wizard of Oz. But that's a movie, not a book. Hello, Summer answered. It was a book first. One of my favorite books in the world, actually. My dad used to read it to me every night in the first grade. When
Hey,
Summer taught,
Drayden has his hand up.
I've seen that movie like a million times at my
Wizard
grandma's.
of Oz.
Yeah, a million times.
Did you know it was a book first, like they said?
Yeah, my
Yeah.
grandma told me.
That's a good movie. Xavier, did you have something to share?
Yeah, I saw a connection to school because it said you can bring your costume to school, but you can't have any guns or anything.
And that's kind of how it is at our school, right?
Yeah.
Nice job making a connection, friend. Addie?
I've watched the movie Wizard of Oz.
Oh, really? It's kind of funny that they're talking about that in this book, and then this book is also a movie, right?
I thought that same thing.
I also watched the Wonder movie.
Oh, very good. All right.
Right. When Summer talks, especially when she's excited about something, her eyes squint like she's looking right at the sun. I hardly ever see Summer during the day, since the only class we have together is English. But ever since that first lunch at school, we've sat at the summer table together every day, just the two of us. So what are you going to be? I asked her. I don't know yet. I know what I really want to go as, but I think it might be too dorky. You know, Savannah's group isn't even wearing costumes this year. They think we're too old for Halloween. What? That's just dumb. I know, right? I thought we didn't care what those girls think. She shrugged and took a long drink of her milk. So what dorky thing do you want to dress up as? I asked her, smiling. Promise not to laugh. She raised her eyebrows and her shoulders embarrassed. A unicorn. I smiled and looked down at my sandwich. Hey, you promised not to laugh, she laughed. Okay, I said. But you're right, that is too dorky. I know, she said. But I have it all planned out. I'd make the head out of paper mache and paint the horn gold and make the mane gold too. It would be so awesome. Okay, I shrugged. Then you should do it. Who cares what other people think, right? Maybe what I'll do is just wear it for the Halloween parade, she said, snapping her fingers. And I'll just be like a goth girl for school. Yeah, that's it. That's what I'll do. Sounds like a plan, I nodded. Thanks, Augie, she giggled. You know, that's what I like best about you. I feel like I can tell you anything. Yeah, I answered, nodding. I gave her a thumbs up sign. Cool beans. All right. Cool. Drayden?
Mr. Weaver says that all the time.
What's he say?
Cool beans.
Cool beans. I love cool beans. Good connection, friend.
All right. School pictures. I don't think anyone will be shocked to learn I don't want to have my school picture taken on October 22nd. No way. No thank you. I stopped letting anyone take pictures of me a while ago. I guess you could call it a phobia. No, actually, it's not a phobia. It's an aversion, which is a word I just learned in Mr. Brown's class. I have an aversion to having my picture taken. There, I use it in a sentence. I thought Mom would try to get me to drop my aversion to having my picture taken for school, but she didn't. Unfortunately, while I managed to avoid having the portrait taken, I couldn't get out of being a part of the class picture. Ugh. The photographer looked like he'd just sucked on a lemon when he saw me. I'm sure he thought I ruined the picture. I was one of the ones in the front sitting down. I didn't smile, not that anyone could tell I had.
Okay. I think this might be with one of your activities on the choice board, but Augie learned this new word, aversion, that he keeps using. And I wonder if he didn't really tell us exactly what it means. So I wonder if we can figure it out He was saying he doesn't have it like have pictures taken of him. I guess you could call it a phobia. No, actually, it's an aversion. I have an aversion to having my picture taken. What do you guys think aversion means with how he's using it? I have an aversion to having my picture taken. Addie?
He avoids it, or it's one of his biggest fears.
Ooh, well, how did you know that? That's really good. How did you know?
I thought at first he was talking about a fear or phobia, and I thought that since he used that word, then it probably means he's trying to avoid it or it's a fear.
Ooh, very good. Good job using your clues to figure out the word, right? That's what good readers do. Nice job. I think you're right. Okay.
All right, the cheese touch. Have you guys ever heard of the cheese touch?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. What's that from?
Sorry, the Wimpy Kid.
Yeah, that's right. I couldn't remember the book it's from. Diary of a Wimpy Kid. All right, the cheese touch. I noticed not too long ago that even though people were getting used to me, no one would actually touch me. I didn't realize this at first because it's not like kids go around touching each other that much in middle school anyway. But last Thursday in dance class, which is like my least favorite class, Mrs. Intabi, the teacher, tried to make Zamina Chen be my dance partner. Now, I've never actually seen someone have a panic attack before, but I have heard about it, and I'm pretty sure Zamina had a panic attack at that second. She got really nervous and turned pale and really broke into a sweat within a minute. And then she came up with some lame excuse about really having to go to the bathroom. Anyway, Mrs. Antabi let her off the hook because she ended up not making anyone dance together. Then yesterday in my science elective, we were doing this cool mystery powder investigation where we had to classify a substance as an acid or a base. Everyone had to heat their mystery powders on the heating plate to make observations. So we were all huddled around the powder with our notebooks. Now, there are 8 kids in the elective, and 7 of them were squished together on one side of the plate, while one of them, me, had loads of room on the other side. So of course I noticed this, but I was hoping Mr. Rubin wouldn't notice this because I didn't want her to say something. But of course she did notice this, and of course she said something. Guys, there's plenty of room on the other side. Tristan, Nino, go over there, she said. So Tristan and Nino scooted over to my side. Tristan and Nino have always been okay nice to me. I want to go on record as saying that. Not super nice, like they go out of their way to hang out with me, but okay nice. Like they say hello to me and talk to me like normal. And they didn't even make a face when Mrs. Rubin told them to come on my side, which a lot of kids do when they think I'm not looking. Anyway, everything was going fine until Tristan's mystery powder started melting. He moved the foil off the plate just as my powder began to melt too, which is why I went to move mine off the plate. And then my hand accidentally bumped his hand for a fraction of a second. Tristan jerked his hand away so fast he dropped his foil on the floor while also knocking everyone else's foil off the heating plate. Tristan, yelled Mrs. Rubin, but Tristan didn't even care about the spilled powder on the floor or that he ruined the experiment. What he was most concerned about was getting to the lab sink to wash his hands as fast as possible. That's when I knew for sure that there was this thing about touching me at teacher prep. I think it's like the cheese touch in Diary of a Wimpy Kid. The kids in that story were afraid they'd catch the cooties if they touched the old moldy cheese on the basketball court. At Beecher Prep, I'm the old moldy cheese.
So Drayden was right. It is from Diary of a Wimpy Kid. And Drayden, did you have something to share?
Yeah, off the hook.
Yeah, I think I highlighted that. What does that mean?
Yeah, that means it's like AM. It says letter off the hook. It means you can go for now. What? Super cool.
Oh, Okay. Yeah, so let her off the hook. That is an idiom. Nice job, Drayden. Because she's not actually hanging on a hook, right? That would be bad. But she's saying, oh, fine, you won't get in trouble. I won't say anything. You can go. Good job. And then I also highlighted a fraction of a second because you know how fast a second is? Like 1 Mississippi. And if it's a fraction of a second, what's that mean?
Half of a second?
Yeah, it's like not even the whole second, right? We learned about fractions. It's just a part of the second, like such a small little amount of time. Addie? Oh, I thought you had something. Okay. Yeah, so when he tells us a fraction of a second, that's how we know they barely even touched together, right? But he thought he had to go wash his hands. Why do you think that kid was going to wash his hands? Addie?
Because he might have been scared because the cheese touch is going around and he got touched and he was scared.
Yeah, maybe he was scared that, like, oh, Jordan, what were you going to say?
He was a cheese touch, they're trying to say. He was a cheese touch. They
Yeah.
don't touch him because they're just gonna think they're gonna get like ugh.
Very good, exactly. All right, let's go into costumes.
All right, costumes. For me, Halloween is the best holiday in the world. It even beats Christmas. I get to dress up in a costume. I get to wear a mask. I get to go around like every other kid with a mask, and nobody thinks I look weird. Nobody takes a second look. Nobody notices me. Nobody knows me. I wish every day could be Halloween. We could all wear masks all the time. Then we could walk around and get to know each other before we got to see what we looked like under the mask. When I was little, I used to wear an astronaut helmet everywhere I went. To the playground, to the supermarket, to pick up Thea from school, even in the middle of summer. Though it was so hot, my face would sweat. I think I wore it for a couple of years, but I had to stop wearing it when I had an eye surgery. I was about 7, I think. And then we couldn't find the helmet after that. Mom looked everywhere for it. She figured that it had probably ended up in Grand's attic, and she kept meaning to look for it, but by then I had gotten used to not wearing it. I have pictures of me in all my Halloween costumes. My first Halloween, I was a pumpkin. My second, I was Tigger. My third, I was Peter Pan. My dad dressed up as Captain Hook. My fourth, I was Captain Hook. My dad dressed up as Peter Pan. My fifth, I was an astronaut. My sixth, I was Obi-Wan Kenobi. My seventh, I was a clone trooper. My eighth, I was Darth Vader. My ninth, I was the Bleeding Scream, the one with the fake blood oozing out over the skull mask. This year, I was going to be Boba Fett. No, not Boba Fett, the kid in Star Wars Episode 2, Attack of the Clones, but Boba Fett, the man in Star Wars Episode 5, The Empire Strikes Back. Mom searched everywhere for the costume, but couldn't find one in my size, so she bought me a Jango Fett costume, since Jango was Boba's dad and wore the same armor, and then painted the armor green. She did some other stuff to make it look worn, too. Anyway, it looks totally real. Mom's good at costumes. In homeroom, we all talked about what we were going to be for Halloween. Charlotte was going to be Hermione from Harry Potter. Jack was going as a Wolfman. I heard that Julian was going as Jango Fett, which was a weird coincidence. I don't think he liked hearing that I was going as Boba Fett. On the morning of Halloween, Via had this big crying meltdown about something. Via's always been so calm and cool, but this year, she's had a couple of these kinds of fits. Dad was late for work and was like, Via, let's go, let's go. Usually Dad is super patient about things, but not when it comes to his being late for work. And his yelling just stressed out Via even more, and she started crying louder. So Mom told Dad to take me to school and that she'd deal with Via. Then Mom kissed me goodbye quickly before I even put on my costume and disappeared into Via's room. Augie, let's go now, said Dad. I have a meeting I can't be late for. I haven't put on my costume yet. So put it on already. 5 minutes, I'll meet you outside. I rushed to my room and started to put on the Boba Fett costume, but all of a sudden, I didn't feel like wearing it. I'm not sure why. Maybe because it had all these belts that needed to be tightened and I needed someone's help to put it on. Or maybe it was because it still smelled a little like paint. All I knew was that it was a lot of work to put the costume on, and Dad was waiting, and I would get super impatient if I made him late. So at the last minute, I threw on the Bleeding Scream costume from last year. It was such an easy costume, just a long black robe and a big white mask. I yelled goodbye from the door to my mom. I yelled goodbye from the door on my way out, but Mom didn't even hear me. I thought you were going as Jango Fett, said Dad when I got outside. Boba Fett. Whatever, said Dad. This is a better costume anyway. Yeah, it's cool, I answered.
Okay, interesting. So he didn't end up wearing the costume that he wanted, and he said he didn't really know why. Maybe it's because it smelled like paint or because it was hard to put on. But I wonder if that was the reason. So let's keep reading and see what happens when he gets to school.
The Bleeding Scream. Walking through the halls that morning on my way to the lockers was, I have to say, absolutely awesome. Everything was different now. I was different. Where I usually walked with my head down, trying to avoid being seen, today I walked with my head up, looking around. I wanted to be seen. One kid wearing the same exact costume as mine, long white skull face, oozy fake red blood, high-fived me as we passed each other on the stairs. I have no idea who he was, and he had no idea who I was. And I wondered for a second if he would have ever done that if he'd known it was me under the mask. I was starting to think this was going to go down as one of the most awesome days in the history of my life. But then I got to homeroom. The first costume I saw as I walked inside the door was Darth Sidious. It had one of the rubber masks that are so realistic with a big black hood over the head and a long black robe. I knew right away it was Julian, of course. He must have changed his costume at the last minute because he thought I was coming as Jango Fett. He was talking to two mummies who must have been Miles and Henry, and they were all kind of looking at the door like they were waiting for someone to come through it. I knew it wasn't a Bleeding Scream they were looking for. It was a Boba Fett. I was going to go and sit at my usual desk, but for some reason, I don't know why, I found myself walking over to a desk near them, and I could hear them talking. One of the mummies was saying, "It really does look like him. Like this part especially," answered Julian's voice. He put his finger on the cheeks and eyes of Darth Sidious's mask. "Actually," said the mummy, "what he really looks like is one of those shrunken heads. Have you ever seen those? He looks exactly like that. I think he looks like an orc." "Oh, yeah." "If I looked like that," said the Julian voice, kind of laughing, "I swear to God, I'd put a hood up over my face every day." "I've thought about this a lot," said the second mummy, sounding serious. "And I really think if I looked like him, seriously, I think I'd kill myself." "You would not," answered Darth Sidious. "Yeah, for real," insisted the same mummy. "I can't imagine looking in the mirror every day and seeing myself like that. It would be too awful, and getting stared at all the time." "Then why do you hang out with him so much?" asked Darth Sidious. "I don't know," answered the mummy. "Tushman asked me to hang out with him at the beginning of the year, and he must have told all the teachers to put us next to each other in all our classes or something." The mummy shrugged. I knew the shrug, of course. I knew the voice. I knew I wanted to run out of the class right then and there. But I stood where I was and listened to Jack Will finish what he was saying. I mean, the thing is, he always follows me around. What am I supposed to do? "Just ditch him," said Julian. I didn't know what Jack answered because I walked out of the class without anyone knowing I had been there. My face felt like it was on fire while I walked back down the stairs. I was sweating under my costume, and I started crying. I couldn't keep it from happening. The tears were so thick in my eyes I could barely see, but I couldn't wipe them through the mask as I walked. I was looking for a little tiny spot to disappear into. I wanted a hole I could fall inside of, a little black hole that would eat me up.
Oh, wow. So in that chapter, a lot of things just happened. Can anybody kind of summarize and tell us what just happened when he went to school in his costume? Drayden?
Jack Will started talking behind his back to his friends.
Yeah, why were they talking when he was right there? Why didn't they know he was there?
Because he was under a mask and he was wearing a costume, so he didn't really know that they were them. Yeah.
Yeah, and it turns out, he said, I know that person who was the mummy. It turned out to be Jack Will. Xavier, did you have something to add?
No.
Oh,
I was doing this and it was a different question. But
Oh.
now I figured it out.
okay. So why is Jack Will saying all this stuff? Because I thought they were good friends. And now Jack Will's saying, Mr. Tushman asked me to be friends with him and he just follows me around. Why do you think he's saying that? No thoughts? It kind of reminds me of last week when one of your choice board things, I think, talked about how you have to choose to be kind and sometimes it's hard. And I know one of our friends turned in a video and talked about how it's hard to choose kind sometimes when the people around you think you're being weird for choosing that. So that's what it kind of made me think of, is Jack Will might be embarrassed to say that he actually likes Augie because other people think he's so different. So he's probably sad now. Let's see. I think we just have one more chapter. Yep, let's finish that real quick.
Okay. Names. Rat Boy, Freak, Monster, Freddy Krueger, E.T., Gross Out, Lizard Face, Mutant. I know the names they call me. I've been in enough playgrounds to know kids can be mean. I know. I ended up in the second floor bathroom. No one was there because first period had started and everyone was in class. I locked the door to my stall and took off my mask and just cried for I don't know how long. Then I went to the nurse's office and told her I had a stomach ache, which was true because I felt like I'd been kicked in the gut. Nurse Molly called Mom and had me lie down on the sofa next to her desk. 15 minutes later, Mom was at the door. Sweetness, she said, coming over to hug me. Hi, I mumbled. I didn't want her to ask me anything until afterward. You have a stomach ache? She asked, automatically putting her hand on my forehead to check for my temperature. He said he feels like throwing up, said Nurse Molly, looking at me with very nice eyes. And I have a headache, I whispered. I wonder if it's something you ate, said Mom, looking worried. There's a stomach bug going around, said Nurse Molly. Oh, geez, said Mom, her eyebrows going up as she shook her head. She helped me to my feet. Should I call a taxi or are you okay walking home? I can walk. What a brave kid, said Nurse Molly, patting me on the back as she walked us toward the door. If he starts throwing up or runs a temperature, you should call the doctor. Absolutely, said Mom, shaking Nurse Molly's hand. Thank you so much for taking care of him. My pleasure, answered Nurse Molly, putting her hand under my chin and tilting my face up. You take care of yourself, okay? I nodded and mumbled, thank you. Mom and I hug-walked the whole way home. I didn't tell her anything about what had happened, and later when she asked me if I felt well enough to go trick-or-treating after school, I said no. That worried her since she knew how much I usually loved trick-or-treating. I heard her say to Dad on the phone, he doesn't even have the energy to go trick-or-treating. No fever at all. Well, I will if he doesn't feel better by tomorrow. I know, poor thing. Imagine him missing Halloween. I got out of going to school the next day too, which was Friday, so I had the whole weekend to think about everything. I was pretty sure I would never go back to school again.
Okay. So is Augie actually sick? I don't think so. He's just upset, right? He's not he wanted to get away from school and all those people who were talking about him, and he didn't even want to go trick-or-treating. So the mood has kind of changed, I think. I think it ended a little bit sad today. Do you guys have any thoughts about what we've read today or anything you want to share with us? No? Okay. Oh. What, Xavier?
Trying to. Yeah, there's nothing.
There's nothing? Okay. Okay.